My name is Jessa DeLeon.
Elizabeth.
Melissa Widener.
Zach Zimmerman.
My name is Danny.
My name is Sarah. I'm a senior at UCSB.
I am a communications and Spanish double major.
Psychology and communications double major.
I am part of KCSB Sports, and UCEAP.
I'm a third year film and media studies and communications double major.
And I'm a member of the Delta Gamma sorority on campus.
My name is Dan Linz. I have had the honor of teaching this course entitled Communicating Consent. And in this course, we've attempted to understand what is consent. And I can tell you at the end of it, I've learned so much from the students, but I couldn't tell you what consent is.
I was sexually assaulted using drugs and alcohol when I was underage.
And he took advantage of me.
The first assault was from someone who I didn't know, and that had less of effect than the second assault.
My definition of sexual consent is active, continuous agreement between two parties during any kind of sexual encounter.
Honestly, I don't think that I have a holistic definition of sexual consent that would be all-encompassing. I think it's much too complicated of a subject to narrow down into one single definition. Jumping into a therapy session with CAPS, which I love.
I found my current group of teammates and best friends, and those are the people who I talk about everything with now.
Five % of attempted and completed rapes of women in college were reported to law enforcement officers.
We all have this idea in our head of what we would do if we saw sexual harassment or sexual assault happening, but in reality, our first instinct is to avoid it. And it's not always crystal clear what exactly is going on if you don't know exactly what sexual harassment is. I've seen it on my street, I've seen it at bars, I've seen it at my house even. I've seen instances where people have tried to intervene and it's gotten confrontational. Just a few weeks ago, I went to a bar with a few friends and we were talking, and one of my friends comes over and she is looking flustered and embarrassed and even pissed off. She says that some guy, as she was walking by, grabbed her ass, and within seconds, he comes over and he starts trying to talk to us, and he's putting his hand on her back, and you can just see in her eyes how uncomfortable she is. It took me going over to his friends to get him to leave, and if there's 3 people talking to him to get him to leave, and how horrified she must have been if I was feeling that way. Sometimes it's your friends. And talking to your friends is usually harder than talking to someone you don't even know. But it's even more important, if it is your friends, to talk to them and ask what's going on.
A campus group called Now UCSB recently had a sit-in at the Chancellor's office. They discussed how the university handles sexual assault cases. And most of the 12 demands that they gave to the Chancellor were actually from a sit-in 3 years prior. So the Chancellor signed off on all of them, and they just were never met or dealt with. And so 3 years they felt the need to bring them up again. And these demands range from a bunch of things, from lighting in certain roads to creating a survivor center for sexual assault victims. Because right now we have CARE, which is in the Women's Center and doesn't actually have its own space.
CARE is an organization on campus that provides support and assistance to victims of sexual assault.
The first assault that occurred in my life was when I was 15 years old. I was visiting friends who went to community college here in Santa Barbara, and on a night out with them, I was actually taken advantage of. I was sexually assaulted using drugs and alcohol when I was underage. And after this assault, I was able to report it, and the man was put away for about 4 years. The second time I was sexually assaulted was much more difficult for me. It also happened in Isla Vista, but I knew the guy. It was happening after a night of fun, but I was actually roofied and taken back to his place and raped.
They provide a variety of services. They provide you an advocate in the immediate instance after a sexual assault or rape takes place. You can call a number 24/7 and they'll send somebody to come and make sure you're okay, take you to the hospital if that's something that you want, and basically like what the word entails, be your advocate for the whole situation.
The first time I reported it was really easy. I was a young girl. I knew that rape was wrong. I knew that my body mattered. I knew that I should respect myself and that he was just a bad guy. So putting him away was really easy. I had a lot of support from my friends and family, my parents. Everyone knew I was very out about it, which was also really strange that I was comfortable with that, but the fact that it was a random guy made it really easy. The second time I was here as a student, it weighed a lot heavier on me. I was independent. I had no support from my community. Talking about it was not an option because everyone else knew him too. And so putting it out there meant that everyone knew, and it was all his word or my word, and it made me really uncomfortable. So I kept it hidden. I reported it to CARE anonymously, and they met with me and talked about my options.
They also provide counseling services to students.
After the incidents, I sought therapy both times. The first time, I already had a family therapist that I talked to, and she was shocked, of course, but the therapy was really easy. I already knew her, I established a rapport. When I got here the second time, I had not been seeking counseling or any help, so jumping into a therapy session with CAPS, which I love, was actually really uncomfortable because no one knew me besides the girl who got raped. The transition period for me was about 2.5 weeks. They actually referred me to a survivor group on campus. So CAPS actually holds a bunch of group therapy sessions for students in various different fields, and one of them is survivors of sexual assault. There's both a men's group and a women's group, and I was involved in the women's group, and we talked through our issues of coming to terms with what had happened to us and moving forward, and hearing the words of other women who had experienced similar things to me. And especially understanding that it wasn't just me who had gone through this, but it was multiple people in this community, and the grandiosity of this issue, if that's a good word, was really useful for me to figure out what and how I can progress and care for myself.
My transition from moving from victim to survivor was actually quite long. It was several years for myself, and I'm not sure if it was because I had 2 sexual assaults on top of being deployed to Iraq, but there was a point in my life where I got so depressed that I sought help immediately and went into an inpatient program. And that's when I realized through prolonged exposure therapy that I didn't have to be a victim anymore, that I wanted to be more than that person that was scared and cowering. So with that newfound idea of that I'm more than that prior person, that I am this new person, I'm this survivor. I have pushed past those boundaries and made sure that I was continuing with therapy, refound my own sexual identity, and kind of just forged a new path, and making sure that I was never looking back and just constantly looking forward. Was going and doing sports and other activities, hanging out with friends, definitely not staying at home. And that continued my progress to becoming the person that I am today.
Another thing is, say, for example, your perpetrator is in a class of yours, they can help you talk to professors to possibly maybe rearrange your section time or class time or something like that. If you're having trouble with assignments, they can talk to professors about that.
I actually took it incomplete, like the entire quarter after the rape, because I was unable to focus on anything. I was in denial, I was depressed, I was anxious, and I couldn't really attribute it to why. And so I just kind of withdrew from my classes and gave myself me time.
That they do provide quick access to care. So if you call them after an assault, they will meet you wherever you are. If you want to go to the emergency room, they will, if it's in the middle of the night, they will contact a cab, pick you up, and meet you at the emergency room. If you go to the care office during school hours, they will actually take you to the emergency room. They will take you to go to the police station. They will also walk you over to CAPS, where the psychologist, a trained psychologist in sexual assault is, and you will be able to receive treatment there if needed. I am a little bit disgruntled with them just because there isn't enough funding to allow there to be a bigger space for other groups to go. So if there's a man that needs to go to care, he might feel a little uncomfortable going to the women's center, or if there's transgender or non-binary.
The students most likely to be sexually assaulted on campuses are LGBTQ students. And what this means to our community is that the more out we are, the more at risk we are. So we're basically being discouraged from expressing ourselves the way we really wish.
There is also only, I believe, 4 advocates, and I believe that maybe they need a little bit more.
I don't think that very many students at UCSB know that the office even exists. I personally didn't know about it until I took this class. A part of our fees that we pay every year as students goes towards care, but it's such a small amount that when I looked at the breakdown of all of our, I think it's around $1,700 worth of student fees each student pays, I couldn't even find the portion that went to care. I do think that, one, more funding should be going to care, and they definitely need to publicize to students the services that they offer, because there's a lot of good that they can do. I just don't think students know how to access it.
So what is care? What is CAPS? What is Gacho FYI? These are things that are called quote-unquote resources here at UCSB, but as a student, and personally how I feel, I don't feel like they're taking advantage of the resources necessary that can be applied for the student body. A one-time deal for freshmen and transfer students that come into the university not knowing anything about it and are introduced to the aspects of SB culture. But I feel like we could dig a little bit deeper. I feel like we can spend a little bit more time on matters that are more pressing to the student body. In this class, in this sense, it would be sexual abuse. How to go about in a party, how to know when sexual consent should be allotted, what is sexual consent? These are the things that we have to go about in our day, in our organizations and communities to figure out, and we need to evoke that message to the student body. See, we're paying all this money and part of our college tuition to have the resources necessary to have a great education, to feel comfortable in the space that we're in. But at the same time, there's this constant divide between university and student that we have to fill.
One thing that I would love to see around here at UCSB informing students is a basic sexual assault checklist. I feel number 1 should definitely go straight to the emergency room. The emergency room is there to collect any evidence that may be needed later down the road if the victim/survivor decides to report later.
If you feel you've been sexually assaulted, you need to act fast. The school has to report sexual assault within 48 hours. If you shower within 72 hours, the evidence could be washed away.
And second, I believe that you definitely need to reach out to CARE and make sure you get that advocate there to help you. Not only will they help you report, be there with you if you want to go to the emergency room, but they'll also help you with any finances, housing, dealing with your professors, anything else you may possibly need. That process of after an assault is very chaotic and you may be confused about just normal daily activities. Third thing, I would definitely say make sure you go and seek therapy. There's nothing wrong with that. They will help you move past and move through the assault situation and what it did to your body and your mind. Here at CAPS, there is a physician that, a psychiatrist that will actually be there who's specially trained in assaults, and she can guide you through the process of healing.
Sexual assault is an issue at all college campuses across the nation. And I think us as a community need to move towards being more inclusive and understanding about these issues. And while Gaucho FYI does touch upon some of this, one shot at trying to understand how complex the situation isn't enough. We should be proactive instead of preventative. Moving towards a more understanding culture and being able to be trained in sexual assault cases and handling all these issues several times throughout our college career could be incredibly helpful. There are things we're doing as a campus to move forward, yet there are things still holding us back. Per the Clery Act, we still get notifications that sexual assaults are still happening all over campus.
Now, the Clery Act requires U.S. colleges and universities to disclose information about the crime on and around their campuses and to disclose their security policies.
What I learned in this class was about UCSB alerts. Now, a student might receive 40 or 50 of these during the course of their stay here at UCSB. So, sexual assault report. This email is being sent to the campus community as a timely warning regarding a crime that occurred on campus property. UCSB Police Department received a report of rape that occurred on campus residential property, May 17, 2017. April 30th, 2016, evening hours, report of a sexual offense that occurred in Isla Vista. April 22nd, 2016, non-stranger sexual offense that occurred in Isla Vista. September 5th, 2016, while attending parties in Isla Vista, a female was sexually assaulted by a college-age male in a residential area. 6/14/2016, during the course of an evening, a male acquaintance, two male acquaintances, sexually assaulted the female against her will. January 21st, 2017, unknown male suspect in Isla Vista sexually assaulted a UCSB student. April 22nd, 2016, May 14th, 2016, February 11th, 2017, lost female went to a residence on 6700 block of Estero Road, Isla Vista. While at the residence, a male sexually assaulted the female.